But tonight, we're making a stop down south. We're going to Jacksonville. And I'm not doing this by myself. I have Jacksonville's own Karita Parks with me tonight. Now, if you don't know Karita Parks, let me give you a little quick rundown real quick. She actually is the NFL insider for three-point conversion with the Washington football team. Triple Dub podcast, which if you haven't watched that, talks about the Washington Wizards and just Washington sports, and it is great. I enjoy it. Four powerful women talking great sports. Then, of course, you cover the Wizards.
Yeah.
But I will say I'm sorry. They're going through a lot right now with COVID and losing games in the fourth quarter, and I'm sorry.
The struggle is real right now. The struggle is real.
Yeah, they are. They're struggling. Yeah, but they're gonna be all right. They're gonna figure it out. Hated that Thomas Bryant got hurt, but we're gonna get out of the NBA. We're gonna go back to the NFL. We're gonna talk about them Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, what I have to say also is, let's see. You have been a Jacksonville Jaguars fan since the beginning, huh?
Yes, that's my hometown, born and raised. I'm in D.C. now. Moved here about 10 years ago, but Duval County is always home. The Jaguars are always the home team. And so I have to keep it balanced between using my analyst side and also that fan side.
Right. It's hard, isn't it?
I know I try to stay neutral, but sometimes I gotta, get back into that fan mode. Like,
Right.
What are you doing?
So you gotta let them know sometimes too when people be picking with your team too, right?
Absolutely.
I know I've experienced that. Some of y'all who are watching, I've experienced that as well, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I thought Karita was gonna come through the screen and get me. Just be honest.
So true. I definitely get after you anytime you bring up something about the Jaguars that I don't agree with. It's like might be my friend and all, but that goes out the window when it comes to the home team. Especially because you in Nashville with who. So
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask as well. What are some of the fun times that you can remember? Well, we're gonna ask that later. I'm sorry. Let me talk about who are your top 5 players that you've seen play for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
for me, some of my best memories or some of the players that really resonated with me were from the Jaguars early days. So if we say top 5, I would definitely say Mark Brunell, Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardle, aka Thunder and Lightning. They were definitely fire. You had Fred Taylor, I'll add him to the list. And I'll add Maurice Jones-Drew too, has some good success with running back. So I say those are my top 5.
Well, I'll definitely say this. I enjoyed watching Fred Taylor run. I enjoyed watching him. I mean, just look at him in this picture. Look at this picture. He looked like he's about to hurt somebody out there.
He did his thing. Like that was the days where we had a good team put together, So those are some of my fondest memories.
Right. That was when I still remember him just running roughshod over some teams. Oh, we've got a couple comments on here as well. Somebody said I was here when Fred Taylor and David Garrard was there. Wow, that's a name, David Garrard.
David Garrard, Byron Leftwich, who is Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator. Let's not forget that. We don't hear his name often, but he is Tampa Bay's OC and former Jaguar quarterback. So,
right. I still never forget the time he was with Marshall. Remember he hurt his leg and the lineman had to carry him down the field?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, that was...
I forgot about it, like, in the front of my memory, but when you bring it up, I definitely recall that moment.
Yeah, that definitely was pretty interesting to watch that one, and that was, whew, boy, oh boy. I winced in pain watching them carry him down the field and just him trying to get himself down the field. That just, whew, goodness, it just did something to me. It just did something to me.
I mean, that was their heart. You know what I mean?
Um, let's see now. Unfortunately, we can't live in the past the entire night. We can't talk about the old Jacksonville Jaguars. We do have to talk about the new Jacksonville Jaguars, who went 1-15 this year, and they fired Doug Marrone, who now is the offensive line coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Him and Bill O'Brien coaching together, two former NFL head coaches, now assistant coaches for Nick Saban, which unbelievable how he gets two former NFL head coaches and now they're assistants on the staff. But I digress.
I'm sure Doug Marrone's probably cool with that. He just seems like the type of guy who goes with the flow, and it is what it is, and he's going to do what he has to do. So he's probably happy at Alabama.
He probably is. There's no telling. And a lot of them are from under the Bill Belichick tree as well. So, one thing I want to talk about as well. We gotta bring it. Like I said, we gotta bring it to the new. Jaguars went 1-15 this year. It wasn't a successful year for them as a team. Fired the coach, Doug Marrone. Brought in Urban Meyer. He's 187-32 as a college coach. That's with Ohio State, Florida, Bowling Green, and Utah. 3 national championships. But he has never coached at the pro level at all. What are your thoughts on him being the head coach of your Jacksonville Jaguars?
I don't know what to think yet. He's definitely one of the most winningest coaches in college football history. You just mentioned all of the stats. The man knows how to win. That is an absolute fact. He knows how to build a winning culture, which is going to be very important for this franchise. But of course, my biggest question is, how will his college experience translate into the NFL? I mean, we've seen some success there, like Pete Carroll with the Seahawks, but we don't know what Urban Meyer is going to bring to the NFL stage. And also, it's an even playing field now, right? So it's a little different than college. You have an even playing field of talent in the NFL, and like in college, you go through rough patches too, and he's building this franchise back up. So my biggest question is he going to have the patience for rebuilding a franchise? Because we've seen when he's had some losing seasons, he left those schools. So I want to make sure that he has patience for the process, and that's what I'm hopeful for.
I'll say this. You did mention him leaving schools when they weren't successful. But one thing you didn't mention is his health issues that suddenly pop up when he leaves these schools.
Well, I was trying to be nice about it, but that's really what I was referring to. He suddenly had health issues when the teams weren't doing well. So I don't want there to be a situation where, like, oh my goodness, I'm having a health issue because the team is not starting off fast enough, or the record isn't what I want it to be. I mean, this is the NFL. Sometimes you could come out the gate hitting on all cylinders. Sometimes you can't. And with the Jaguars having the history that they've had, we have to see what he's able to do. But I'm very concerned about what health issues might pop up along the process.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, it's a cyst, I believe. It's in his brain. It isn't removed. But with stress, it becomes worse. And I don't think he's going to be less stressed in the NFL because they don't have school to worry about. They just have playing football and going home and taking care of themselves. One thing I will say, though, is that can help him is that he did hire a offensive coordinator today in Darrell Bevell, who was the interim head coach for the Detroit Lions. And, he has a vast array of experience in the NFL being an offensive coordinator. So that helps. But one thing that doesn't help to me is that his general manager is Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke, if you're not familiar with him, the last time you really heard of him on a big stage was when he was the general manager of the San Francisco 49ers. And he was the general manager when Jim Harbaugh was the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And those two butted heads. Eventually, they all were out of San Francisco. So it's going to be interesting that he's with a coach that is used to having the ultimate power over the organization or over wherever he is. And those two I'm just trying to figure out how those two are going to mesh together as a general manager and a head coach. Do you have any feelings on that one?
I mean, that's the biggest question of it all. I mean, we don't know, but they said that they are aligned on the vision for the future of the franchise. And, I know Baalke had some rough patches with the 49ers with Jim Harbaugh eventually down the line, but he did have some success with that transition. Harbaugh came from college, so there was success with that transition for at least a couple of years. So I think that is a positive. I believe his background in scouting is also something that could be positive, especially working with Urban Meyer. He can identify talent. He drafted Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, your cousin. He drafted your cousin.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner. So there's some positives. I think with every GM, there's positives, there's negatives. People I've spoken to have said that Baalke, he's a football guy. He is present at practices so he can get a firsthand look at the players, and not all GMs do that. So I think there's some positives. We'll definitely have to see how that relationship unfolds, but he clearly has worked with headstrong people before, Jim Harbaugh. Now, like we said, it eventually didn't work out, but we just need him to hang in there a couple years.
I understand. Somebody said a great point, 2012 Super Bowl appearance by the 49ers. So, hey, I get you there. And somebody's actually saying Boselli, too. Tony Boselli, who's up for Hall of Fame, by the way. So, yeah.
Tony Boselli has been up for Hall of Fame for a few years in a row. I had an opportunity to interview him back in Minneapolis when he was also up for Hall of Fame. He didn't make it. I'm going to need them to go ahead and put Tony Boselli in the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. It's sometimes it's difficult when you play for a smaller market like the Jaguars. But go ahead and give that man his flowers, please.
I hear you. We have a question as well. It said a guy said, "I've got the $1 million question. Are you covering the Super Bowl? Are you covering Super Bowl Sunday?"
I'm actually going to be covering it virtually this year. I mean, Mike, we've been in Super Bowl together. I typically do go in person, but this year with COVID, I'm going to be virtual. So make sure you follow me. You'll get some insight from Super Bowl week, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess you got it this time because I ain't hear anything this time. But I'm just being silly. I'm just joking. I'm not for the cut up. But hey, I am just for those that are tuning in. This is the Haps app. You can actually broadcast and jump in here and broadcast to a myriad of different places like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all at the same time. All easy. You can upload videos, do things like that as well. Also I want to shout out, of course, our crew, the 3-point conversion. I can't go on without saying they're part of this production. This is a part of the 3-point conversion as well. So shout out to Mr. Controversy and The Intellectual and Ab and all those fellows as well.
Definitely got to give a shout out to the fam.
They said you gotta wake up next time you come on the show. No, I'm playing.
You know what? Don't even listen to Mr. Controversy. You don't know what he's talking about. You don't know what he's talking about.
But
For
getting back
those who
to
don't get it, I'm not a morning person, so they always make fun of me when I have to get up early to do hits. But you know what? I get up early to be about my business and to talk sports. I will get up early for
it. Right. And I'm not going to acknowledge a comment on there. No. But anyway, let's see. But the season wasn't necessarily a success, but there was one guy that was successful this year,
that.
and his name is James Robinson.
Yes.
Nobody really expected him to be as successful as he was this year, but he ended up being the starting running back. He was actually undrafted, and he got 1,000 yards, 1,400 yards, 1,400 plus yards, all purpose this year. And he could be a building block for this team. I mean, totally unexpected, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Because if you recall, in the offseason, they traded Leonard Fournette, and everybody was kind of like, what in the world are you doing? You're trading Leonard Fournette. We don't have any running backs. And they were very confident in who they had left. Obviously, we didn't know as much about James Robinson. So, undrafted, like you said, a lot of those guys who are undrafted come in with a chip on their shoulder. And he really, really showed out. So I'm very proud of him. He showed that he could hold the load down without Leonard Fournette, and he had a very successful season. I believe he was just picked by the PFWA. They're all rookie team. So James Robinson, he did his thing this year, and he was the one bright spot on the team this year with that 1-15 record. So the fact that he was able to have that much success even during a losing season for the team, but there was no OTAs, there were no training camps, and he can't just imagine what he could do with that preparation.
Right, right. And as people that are watching, I'm showing his highlights down at the bottom of the screen. I mean, he showed a lot of quickness, getting in and out of the holes, a lot of just determination, and honestly, he opened my eyes. I did not think he was that good when I first was like, oh, he's just playing for Jacksonville. No offense, but I was like, eh. But
yeah,
he got on there and he did his thing, and he showed me that he is an NFL running back by far.
Absolutely. Like you said, like just look at the way he's hitting those holes. Just
Yeah, and then shedding blockers. I mean, getting down the sideline. I mean, he does a lot of great things.
He really does. So that's a bright spot and something to definitely look forward to next season. And hopefully he has the pieces around him to succeed even more.
Well, Darrell Bevell's probably not going to know how to act because he actually has a consistent running back. He hadn't had that in Detroit the entire time.
Yes.
So, all right. But yeah, he definitely is a guy that you can build with. And hopefully Urban actually uses him instead of letting him just sit on the bench or trying to draft somebody to overtake him, because I think he's a determined running back. He runs hard, and I enjoy watching him play.
I would definitely hope they continue to use him. Like you said, he's extremely talented. He held down that spot all season. As you mentioned earlier, he had 240 carries, finished the season over 1,000 yards. He absolutely has worked for his role in that offense.
Right, right. And I would be remiss if I didn't say hello to our CEO, Mark Goldman. How you doing, Mark? Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Mark.
And let's see. All right. So we're going to go over something that is just the most, worst kept secret ever. The Jaguars have the first pick, and of course, everyone is saying they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. Some people actually threw out there that they were going to draft Justin Fields just because Urban Meyer coached there, and no, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Justin Fields is not going to be the number one pick.
Fields wasn't even his guy. I mean, he didn't coach Fields, so.
Right, exactly. I didn't get it, and I was like, okay, you're doing a little bit too much, people. You're doing a little bit too much. But as far as him being drafted by the Jaguars, what do you think of him as the face of that team?
Well, he was the face at Clemson, so he can definitely be the face of the Jaguars. I actually think, just knowing the Jacksonville community, and the types of players that they gravitate towards, I definitely think that they will embrace Trevor Lawrence as the face of the franchise. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the number one pick. He is the best player in the draft and the best quarterback in the draft. So the fact that, unfortunately, you're in that position when you have a bad record, but the fact that Jacksonville's able to draft such an amazing talent, I think that he will work well. He'll bring some excitement. People are happy to see him and Urban Meyer together. And, I forgot to mention this earlier. Urban Meyer, he coached at the University of Florida. So there's a ton of Gator fans in Jacksonville. It's the home of the Florida-Georgia game. So I think it's going to kind of bring that college football feel back to Jacksonville, and they love college football. So I think that Trevor Lawrence will do just fine as the face of that franchise, as long as he's winning. Now, if he's not winning, the fans are not going to have it.
Well, I hear you there, but one thing I would say is when he left, there are some Florida fans that still have some hard feelings for Urban as well, especially how he left with the Jeff Brantley issue with quarterback and those type of things. So that's going to be interesting to see how the fans accept him or don't accept him when he steps on the field.
There are fans who, it's funny because a friend of mine back home, Florida Gator fan, that was also their response. One, they said he does know how to win, but two, they said they were still salty for how he left Florida. So you're going to have those fans who are like ride or die. Florida fans, they're not going to care. They think Urban Meyer is great. But you are going to have those who are skeptical, like many of us, when it comes to how, like, if he will stay with the team or if he's going to leave them high and dry like we've seen him do in some of his college football experiences.
Gotcha. So we're going to see. Also, of course, he's not the only thing that this team needs. So besides Trevor Lawrence, what else do you think this team needs to be successful?
Well, they need to beef up the defensive line. Right now, we really only have Josh Allen. And as you know, Jacksonville had a great defense in the recent years. Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Telvin Smith when he was there, Jalen Ramsey, but that's just the defense as a whole. But they really need to beef up that defensive line. They are 31st in the league, I believe, on defense. So they definitely need to work on that. Obviously need a quarterback, which they'll take care of in the draft. They also need to plug in some tight ends to get some additional help on the offense to kind of help those wide receivers out. And probably a backup running back because, James Robertson did his thing, but they still do need a backup running back. So there's a lot of pieces that need to be filled. But the great thing is Jacksonville has 11 draft picks, so they have plenty of opportunity to take care of those pieces in the draft.
Oh, we got a question too. Mark actually has a question. Why do you think Urban Meyer left Ohio State and then came back to coach Jacksonville? You want to take that one, or do you want me to take that one?
I think part of it is having the opportunity to essentially build the team, because that's where we are. This is a serious rebuild. 11 draft picks. I think that's of interest. Getting Trevor Lawrence and knowing that you have that opportunity, I think just having that opportunity to draft the people that he wants to put in place. There was the GM that was missing. He's putting together his staff. So I think that this was really a chance for him to put together all the pieces that he wants to. And we know that he likely has more control than we think.
We're definitely going to see.
He didn't get in other NFL opportunities.
Well, we're definitely going to see. And I only got one answer for that one. No recruiting violations in the NFL. So that's all I had for that one.
That too. Mike is not.
So, hey.
All the way 100 tonight. Okay.
I'm just saying, you can't get a recruiting violation in the NFL. You'd have to try really, really hard for that to happen.
Well, that's very true.
Let's see. So, you did say you were a lifelong Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and of course, you got people in here that are saying, "How is it living in Jacksonville with TGI Fridays and strip malls
I
and
don't know if I
Applebee's?"
understand TGI Fridays and strip malls, but I live in DC now, but I was born and raised in Jacksonville. It's a beautiful city, wonderful beaches, surrounded by water. Uh, there are TGI Fridays, whether or not there's a lot. There's not a ton, but there are TGI Fridays. There's definitely plenty of strip malls and shopping. It's a great place to be if you like sunny weather and beaches.
Hey, you sold me. You sold me.
And water, because there's water everywhere.
Hey, you sold me. Hey, you said beaches and water, and I can roll with that. um, Best and worst memories of the Jaguars.
Oh goodness. So best memories. I think I can come up with a couple best memories. So Jacksonville's a city where there were not a lot of there's no other professional sports. There's like minor league baseball. So when the Jacksonville Jaguars came to the city, it was a big deal. I remember the announcement coming down. It was Jacksonville and the Panthers. We were both awarded teams, same time, same year. I was in school. We had a whole day where everyone wore Jaguars gear. Like, it was a big deal. And then being able to go to those games and just see, especially me being a sports fan, being able to go to those games and see different professional NFL teams. And in Jacksonville, the tickets were not extremely expensive, so you could get some fairly decent price tickets to go to these games. So just bringing that aspect to the city, that was a great memory. And like I said, it was a very big deal. And they brought, despite the frustration, they brought some fun to Jacksonville. So I would say that. Another really great memory is the 1996 season, because they went on this unbelievable playoff run. The Falcons kicker, Morton Anderson, he missed a field goal. And that missing that field goal sent Jacksonville to the wild card game in 1996. They were, people didn't believe that they should be there, didn't think they would get any further than that. They went on to they played Buffalo Bills in that particular round. They went on to the next round, beat the Denver Broncos. No one thought that they would.
You mean this one right here, the Denver Broncos?
Is that from 1996?
That's the game.
Did you know I was going to say that?
No, but I figured you would.
Well, I'm glad I did, because you snapped it up. But yeah, that was just an absolutely unbelievable season. It was just, like I said, nobody thought they would be there. That field goal being missed, they would have lost that game without that. So that was a wonderful, wonderful time in Jacksonville Jaguar history. Worst memory for me, I would say the year that Jacksonville, this was 1999. Jacksonville was essentially undefeated. The only team that beat them that year was the Tennessee Titans 3 times. Twice during the regular season, and then in the AFC Championship game, they beat the Jaguars for a 3rd time. So that's a bad memory, because first of all, who would have thought the same team would beat them 3 times, and that it would be the only team to beat them that year? And they were supposed to, that would have been the year they could have went to the Super Bowl, for real. They were hot, and they just could not get past the Titans. So that was a tough pill to swallow. Besides this recent run to the AFC Championship with Blake Bortles, and that team was very, that team was special because of the defense. The defense really was fire in recent years. And then worst memory obviously was this season, 1-15. It's shouldn't we be going up? Yeah, the past couple years have been tough because they went to that AFC Championship with Blake. 20 was the I forget what year that was. Was that 2017?
Yeah, I think it's 2017.
Yeah, but then instead of getting better the next year, it's like they just went downhill after that.
Well, I thought you were going to say this was one of their worst ones.
What is this?
Drive starts at the 1 and looking for a little breathing room, and they get that and plenty more. Derrick Henry still going.
No, I just blocked it out of my mind. That's just embarrassing. I was so frustrated watching that game. Those are the types of things I block out of my mind. But that is one of the worst memories. But woo, that was just all out embarrassing. Like nobody could tackle Derrick Henry. He just stiff-armed everybody for 99 yards. And they played that clip all the time, seems like. So I was hoping that when he stiff-armed Josh, oh my goodness, I'm going
Josh Norman.
I was like, can that replace the Jaguars getting stiff-armed Henry? He's had a couple stiff arms since then, so hopefully we are good now. Unless someone like Mike's wants to pull up the bad memory.
Hey, I couldn't help it. That was actually the easiest. That I found that one the first thing I kind of looked up with Jacksonville Jaguars and kind of Derrick Henry or anything Titans Jaguars. That was the first one that came up. It was.
I have a long history. I had such a long history with the Jaguars, so I remember everything almost.
Yeah, I know you remember. All the beatdowns that they've given to the Titans too, because I know the Titans weren't always good or competitive every single year, especially during the Mike Munchak years. Yeah, that was bad.
I remember those, but the Jaguars-Titans relationship has always been contentious, and it's really interesting to me because it's like no matter who makes up either team, that same relationship it seems to always be there.
Right. Now you did have one former Jacksonville Jaguar come to the Titans. Name escapes me right now, but he played safety. He's not here now, but he was here. It's been a while, I think. I can't remember what his name is. But I'm trying to remember. I cannot remember. But we're going to wrap things up. I want to go over what do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars need to do to surge to the top of the AFC South again?
For me, it's pretty simple. First of all, they need to use these draft picks very wisely, get the right pieces on that team, and whoever they need to pick up in free agency, they've got cap space to do so. So get the right pieces in place and build a winning culture. That's what's been missing from Jacksonville for, it feels like, a good couple of years now. Build that winning culture, draft the right people, put the right people in place, and obviously, great coaching is going to be key.
Right.
And I think the Jaguars will be on their way back to being competitive in the AFC South and hopefully on the top because, we don't need any more. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go there.
Now, a question.
But that's what they need to do to get back to the top.
Now, a question I do have for you is, let's see. Do you think there is any way possible? I just thought of this question. Is there any way possible that a certain Tim Tebow shows up in Jacksonville on that roster?
I hope not. I hope not. Let it go. Let's just let that go. That ship has sailed. Let it keep on going down the ocean or the river. No. I hope not. It's not completely out of the question, but I think they just need to let it go.
Yeah, he is off into his baseball career playing for the Mets. So yeah, let him stay doing that.
The NFL worked out for him. I have nothing against Tim Tebow. He's a great young man. but I'm just not with bringing it back. Like, we should just let that go.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on with me tonight and discussing your hometown team.
Hey, often I get to actually talk about the Jaguars, so I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. You know, I know you rep your team when you're not doing everything else you do. You know the 20 million hats that you wear. So
No
you know,
lies told, 20 million hats is definitely true.
and I mean we didn't even talk about the PR hat that you wear. We didn't even talk about that.
We did not. That's actually the bread and butter. That's the foundation of who I am, is my PR background. So very proud of that. If you want to learn more, follow Parks PR on Instagram at Parks PR, or you can follow me. I post Parks PR stuff too.
Well, the floor is yours if you want to tell everybody where they can find you, what all they can find you getting into. The floor is yours.
Well, as you said, there's a lot. Since we were talking about PR, you can follow my PR page, like I said, on Instagram at Parks PR. I'm also the CEO and founder of Double Take Sports. It's an online sports media platform where you can find content regarding the NFL, NBA, sports in general, try to write some thought-provoking pieces and just give a different angle on news that's going on in sports. So that's doubletakesports.com, dbltakesports.com, and also on social media on all platforms at dbltakesports. You can also follow me personally on all platforms at Carita C. Parks. That's CARITA at Carita C. Parks. And all of my work, I tweet out there. So if anything, make sure you follow me there and you'll find all the other platforms that I mentioned.
Wow, that's a lot. I think I took notes and I got 55 places that I can find you.
I'm everywhere. So you have nobody has an excuse. I'm everywhere.
Well, I definitely want to thank you again. For those that are checking us out, touring the AFC South will be back again next Thursday. We'll be talking, well, we don't know what we'll be talking about at that point in time. We shall see. You can find me, of course, on Twitter at MikePatton82. You can also, of course, find me writing on the Titans and just NFL and NBA potentially on the 3pointconversion.com. That's the number 3pointconversion.com. By the way, go ahead and stop by that website. Check out everything over there. My guy Danny Thompson with the NBA talk, doing Charlotte Hornets. You've got a mock draft as well that's over on that website as well. That's with Cortland Griffin, and you've got Derek, I believe. Excuse me if I messed up a name, man. But anyway, yeah, you would go stop through there, check that out. Thank you all for tuning in, and good night.